Good morning, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the Asia launch of She Has a Story to Tell. Are You Listening? A global flagship campaign by Heifer International, marking the UN International Year of the Women Farmer 2026. I'm Gurpreet Kaur Bhatia, Regional Communications Director for Asia at Heifer International, and I'm delighted to be your host today. She Has a Story to Tell campaign is rooted in a simple yet powerful idea that women farmers who are at the heart of our agri food systems have stories, knowledge, and leadership that must be seen, heard, and valued. Through the campaign, we aim to spotlight women leadership in agriculture, raise awareness of the challenges they face, draw attention to the systemic barriers, and catalyze investments that enable them to truly thrive. Let me briefly walk you through what we have lined up for you today. We begin with a short film titled Who is a Women Farmer, followed by an interactive quiz to get everyone energized. We will then move into our first listening session where a smallholder farmer woman will share her lived experiences, bringing us closer to the realities behind the narratives. This will be followed by an opening remark and keynote addresses by our distinguished speakers. Next, we will have our second listening session, followed by reflections from our esteemed speakers on key themes such as gender equity in food systems, youth and next generation women agripreneurs, and fair markets and access to finance. We also have a special fireside chat planned for you. So I encourage you to stay with us till the very end. Before we begin, I just have a few housekeeping notes. Please keep your audio and video switched off throughout the session. This session is being recorded and will be shared with all participants after the event. You may submit your questions at any time using a Q&A function. We will address as many as possible during a Q&A segment. We also have live interpretation available in English, Nepali, and Khmer. To access this, please click on the interpretation button at the bottom of your Zoom screen and select the preferred language. And now, we set the tone for today's conversation. Let's begin with an opening film, Who is a Women Farmer?
When you hear the word farmer, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? A man in a wide field? A tractor against the rising sun? What if we told you that the face of farming is also a woman? In South Asia, 71% of working women depend on agri-food systems for their livelihoods. Globally, women make up 41% of the agri-food workforce, nearly equal to men. They grow our food. They feed our families. They sustain our communities. And yet, they are too often unseen. Women in agriculture earn only 82 cents for every dollar earned by men. In 40 out of 46 countries reporting SDG data, men hold more secure land rights. During COVID-19, 22% of women in off-farm agri-food jobs lost their work, compared to just 2% of men. By 2021, nearly 32% of women faced moderate or severe food insecurity, higher than that of men. The gender gap is real, and so is the cost. Closing gender gaps in productivity and wages could add $1 trillion to global GDP and reduce food insecurity for 45 million people. Because when women farmers rise, we all rise. Recognizing women farmers means unlocking the power of the 3 Ps. People, strengthening families, building inclusive communities, and transforming food systems for generations. Planet, women as climate stewards, nurturing soil, conserving water, protecting biodiversity. Profit, adding the full potential of half the population to our economies. Women don't farm just for themselves. They farm to feed the world. It's time to change the question from who is a farmer to why aren't we listening to her? Let's make agri-food systems more inclusive and sustainable by strengthening women's access to resources and social capital, increasing investments in women's empowerment, promoting women's decision-making, addressing structural inequalities, investing at scale in women-led agri-food systems. This International Year of the Woman Farmer, Heifer invites you to join its global flagship campaign. She has a story to tell. Are you listening? We are passing the mic, handing over the stage, spotlighting the voices of women farmers, their struggles, their leadership, their transformation. Because when she speaks and we listen, food systems change. Stand with women farmers, sign the pledge, join the movement, act now.
Thank you, Regina. I hope you've all enjoyed the film. We will now move to our next segment, an audience quiz. And I'd like to invite my colleague, Regina Regmi, to take it forward. Regina, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you can see the quiz up on your screen. Thank you, Gurpreet, for that. Now let's quickly move to the quiz and see how closely everyone was paying attention, because all the answers to the quiz are in the video itself. These are all single choice questions, so you can start filling in your answers as soon as you read the questions. Let me read the first question to you. What percentage of working women in South Asia rely on agri-food systems for their livelihood? Is it 40%, 55%, 71%, or 85%? Moving to question 2. How much could global GDP increase if gender gaps in productivity and wages were closed? These are all in USD. Is it 100 billion, 500 billion, 1 trillion, or 4 trillion? Question 3. In how many countries reporting SDG data do men hold more secure land rights than women? Is it 20 out of 46, 30 out of 46, 40 out of 46, or 45 out of 46? I hope everyone has selected their answers, and now let's wait a minute before we see what the answers, how we've done for ourselves. Okay, now I'm ending the poll and I'm sharing the results with everyone. As you can see, the answer for question number 1 was 71%. For 2 was USD $1 trillion. And for 3, it was 40 out of 46 reporting countries. Thank you for engaging with us and following with us. And with that, I will hand it back to Gurpreet to continue.
Thank you, Regina, for hosting such a great set of questions, and most of the answers were in the film that we just shown. So yeah, it was not really very tough. Thank you again. And I now move on to our first listening session. It's my pleasure to invite Ms. Son Pov, a smallholder farmer and self-help group leader from Cambodia, a young and inspiring leader from Siem Reap province. Sonpov has transformed her life through collective action, now leading a self-help group, practicing modern farming, and supporting her community's growth. Please note that Son will be speaking in Khmer language. Live interpretation into English is available. Kindly select your preferred language using interpretation button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Sonpov, over to you. Please unmute yourself.
ចា៎នាងខ្ញុំឈ្មោះសំពៅជាកសិករហើយនឹងជាមេក្រុមសន្សំជួយខ្លួនឯងចា៎ខ្ញុំចង់ឲ្យអ្នកទាំងអស់គ្នាយល់ពីដំណើរការរបស់ខ្ញុំគឺជាការផ្លាស់ប្ដូរយ៉ាងសំខាន់ពីបញ្ហាហិរញ្ញវត្ថុនិងការចំណាក់ស្រុកទៅជាកសិករសង្គមរូនិងជាមេក្រុមសម្រាប់ដឹកនាំក្រុមសន្សំចា៎នាងខ្ញុំមានអាយុ28ឆ្នាំរៀបការហើយមានកូន2នាក់ ចាកូនប្រុសទាំងពីរចារស់នៅក្នុងស្រុកជីក្រែងខេត្តសៀមរាបខ្ញុំបានបបង់ការសិក្សានៅថ្នាក់ទី9ហើយបានធ្វើចំណាក់ស្រុកទៅទីក្រុងសៀមរាបដើម្បីធ្វើរកការងារធ្វើចាការងារដែលធ្វើលើកទី1ហ្នឹងគឺជាការងារបោកអ៊ុតខោអាវចាហើយបន្តក៏ផ្លាស់ប្ដូរពីការងារបោកអ៊ុតខោអាវទៅជាបុគ្គលិករៀបបន្ទប់ចាសម្អាតបន្ទប់នៅសណ្ឋាគារមួយ ទោះបីជាខ្ញុំរកចំណូលបានក៏ដោយប៉ុន្តែការងារនឹងវាអត់ស្ថិតស្ថេរទេ ចាហើយក៏ធ្វើឲ្យខ្ញុំឆ្ងាយពីគ្រួសារនិងសហគមន៍ជីវិតរបស់ខ្ញុំបានផ្លាស់ប្ដូរនៅពេលដែលខ្ញុំត្រឡប់មកផ្ទះចាហើយនឹងចូលជាសមាជិករបស់សហគមន៍កសិកម្មកំពង់ក្ដីអភិវឌ្ឍថ្មីនៅឆ្នាំ2022តាមរយៈការសន្សំប្រាក់តិចតួចប៉ុន្តែបន្ទាប់មកខ្ញុំដាក់សន្សំ$1ក្នុងមួយថ្ងៃអាចកសាងសុវត្ថិភាពហិរញ្ញវត្ថុថែមទាំងជួយសង្គ្រោះអាជីវកម្មគ្រួសាររបស់នាងខ្ញុំចានៅពេលដែលកើតខ្វះខាតទុនចាហើយសប្តាហ៍ថ្ងៃខ្ញុំមិនត្រឹមតែជាកសិករផ្នែកចិញ្ចឹមមើលនិងដាំបន្លែនៅក្នុងទីសំណាញ់ទេប៉ុន្តែជាមេក្រុមជួយខ្លួនឯងដែលគេទុកចិត្តចានិងជ្រើសជាសមាជិកក្រុមប្រឹក្សាវិបាលរបស់សហគមន៍កសិកម្មចាក្នុងនោះខ្ញុំជាមេក្រុមរបស់ក្រុមជួយខ្លួនឯងចាយើងមានសមាជិកក្រុមដល់ទៅ25នាក់ចាគ្រប់គ្រងប្រមូលមូលនិធិសន្សំសរុបចំនួន45លានរៀលចាប្រហែលជាយើងគិតជាដុល្លារ$11250ចាសមាជិកក្រុមប្រឹក្សាពិបាលរបស់សហគមន៍ចាក្នុងនោះយើងក៏បានផ្គត់ផ្គង់បន្លែសុវត្ថិភាពទៅកាន់កម្មវិធីសាលាចាខ្ញុំចង់ឲ្យអ្នកទាំងអស់គ្នាយល់ថាដោយការវិន័យខ្ពស់ចាការគ្រប់គ្រងពីសហគមន៍សហគ្រិននិងការរួមដំណើរចាចំណេះដឹងបច្ចេកទេសស្ត្រីអាចផ្លាស់ប្ដូរជីវិតនិងបង្កើតអាជីវកម្មចាបង្កើនជីវភាពចិញ្ចឹមគ្រួសារចាចិញ្ចឹមគ្រួសារដោយខ្លួនឯងនឹងមានចីរភាពដោយមិនចាំបាច់ធ្វើការចំណាក់ស្រុកដើម្បីរកការងារធ្វើចាមួយទៀតខ្ញុំបានប្រឈមមុខនឹងបញ្ហាសំខាន់ជាច្រើនប្រាក់ចំណូលមានកំណត់ចាកង្វះឱកាសការងារចាអធិភាពហិរញ្ញវត្ថុវិធីកសិកម្មបែបបុរាណពីមុនដែលយើងអត់ទាន់ជាសមាជិករបស់សហគមន៍កសិកម្មយើងធ្វើបែបជាផ្នែកកសិកម្មបែបបុរាណអត់ទាន់មានការផ្លាស់ប្ដូរចាដល់ពេលយើងបានចូលជាសមាជិករបស់សហគមន៍កសិកម្មយើងក្រោយទទួលបានគាំទ្រខ្ញុំបានរួមដំណើរចំណេះដឹងពីវគ្គបណ្ដុះបណ្ដាលសាលាទាំង12និងការចិញ្ចឹមសត្វនិងការដាំដុះបានផ្លាស់ប្ដូរបានច្រើនចាយើងបានទទួលចំណេះដឹងដូចជាហិរញ្ញវត្ថុនិងទីផ្សារហើយខ្លាយជាអ្នកដឹកនាំចាការអាជីវកម្មកសិកម្មដែលមានចំណូលចម្រុះចាហើយក្នុងនោះក៏ស្ថានភាពគ្រួសារក៏មានការរីកចម្រើនការរស់នៅក៏មានការផ្លាស់ប្រែដែលយើងបានទទួលវគ្គបណ្ដុះបណ្ដាលពីសាលា12គោលការណ៍សាលា12យើងមានការផ្លាស់ប្រែស្ថានភាពគ្រួសារបរិស្ថានបានស្អាតជាងមុនហើយយើងចេះគ្រប់គ្រងសត្វពីដែលអត់ទាន់បានចូលជាក្រុមជួយខ្លួនឯងខ្ញុំអត់បានគ្រប់គ្រងសត្វទៅតាមបច្ចេកទេសទេយើងប្រឡែងចិញ្ចឹមសត្វលក្ខណៈប្រឡែងចោលដល់ពេលយើងបានទទួលវគ្គបណ្ដុះបណ្ដាលសាលា12យើងចេះពីការគ្រប់គ្រងសត្វចានេះទៀតបញ្ហាដែលនៅជាឧបសគ្គចានៅជាឧបសគ្គនៅឡើយចាកង្វះទុនកង្វះចំណេះដឹងបច្ចេកទេសការចូលដំណើរការទីផ្សារមានកំណត់ចាសម្ពាធការធ្វើការចំណាក់ស្រុកអរគុណចាជម្រាបលា
Thank you, Son, for those inspiring reflections. It truly shows that women farmers, if given an opportunity, can truly thrive. All we need is to listen to them. And today we've listened to you and we've listened to the challenges that you are facing. They remind us how important it is to truly listen to the farmers and their lived experiences. Now I'm pleased to invite Ms. Neena Joshi for her opening remarks. Neena Joshi is a Senior Vice President for Asia Programs at Heifer International, with over 25 years of experience advancing entrepreneurship and economic empowerment for smallholder farmers, especially women and youth. She leads transformative initiatives across Asia focused on building inclusive agri-food systems and sustainable livelihoods. Neena, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Gurpreet, and good morning and namaste to all. It's wonderful to have you all join us to celebrate this International Year of Women Farmers. And I would say this is much more than a celebration. This is a recognition of a woman farmer who feeds our families, our communities, and protects our land, contributes to the larger economy, but often without a recognition. This is and she does this with a myriad of challenges. So this is an invitation for all of us to listen to her. She has a story to tell. So, and we just heard her story from Sanpo, and thank you, Sanpo, for sharing your story. It's very powerful and it inspires us. We wanted to start with listening, and I'm sure we all listened with our hearts because the transformation in food system begins with listening to food producers. Uh, I'm sure Sonpo's story will remind us that the meal we just ate came to our table only because many women like Sonpo work very hard every single day. This will also remind us that the statistics we see has a face. Swanpo's journey from migrating for different labors like doing laundries, doing household chores, doing housekeeping, and becoming a farmer, a trainer, a group leader, a cooperative board member is a powerful example of what is possible when we listen to women and engage with them as they need and they want. Her experience also show how small but inconsistent opportunities of saving and investment, access to training, access to services, access to collective actions, access to connections, market can transform their livelihood and inspire them to do more of what they do, like produce food. And her leadership today, managing group, supplying vegetable to feeding school, and guiding other farmers, shows that women farmers are also community leaders and economic drivers. So Sonpo's story reflects the experience of millions of farmers in Asia. Women farmers are driving force in bringing food to our table around the world. Across Asia, women are backbone of agriculture. Behind every rice field, behind every vegetable market, behind the spices we use, behind all our nutritious meals, there is a women farmer. In South Asia, we saw that like 71% of women depend on agri-food system for livelihoods compared to 47% of men. Yes, but despite their central role, their contributions often remain undervalued, underrecognized, and less supported. Women farmers continued to farm against all these odds. Let us, I mean, if we for a moment start to think, what if they stop doing this, what they do, because it's too hard? So this is not merely a question of equality. This is a question of food security. This is a question of resilience, sustainable development. So we already heard that the studies have shown closing the gender gap in agriculture productivity and wages could contribute 1 trillion US dollar to the global GDP and reduce food security for 25 million people worldwide. So when farmers have equal access to land, training, finances, market, farms become more productive, value chains becomes more competitive, and food systems become more resilient and sustainable. At Heifer International, we have seen this transformation firsthand. We listened to the farmers and adopted our ways of working to what they need and what they demand. In the 4 countries we operate, we have engaged directly with more than 600,000 farmers and their collectives directly. We've helped improve systems for services they need, improve access for finance, access to market, and create created opportunities for them to reach policymakers for the shifts they need and more. So these collectives give women, the farmers collectives that we have worked, we've seen that gives women a voice in decision making, stronger bargaining power, and better prices for producers. So and this all starts listening to her and recognizing her hardship, recognizing the knowledge they bring, the contribution that they can make, and making choices that will help them do more of what they are doing. This campaign is a call of action to the voices, to listen to the voices, experience, and leadership of women farmers, because when we truly listen to stories like Sonpo, take a pause and think about our actions like about as consumers for the food choices we make, and our actions at organization engaging in food systems that will help us design investment policies and partnerships um, working with these farmers. So today's listening sessions reminds us of simple but powerful truth. Women farmers already have knowledge, leadership, and solutions. Our responsibility is to listen, invest, and act to that million more, so that million more farmers like Swanpo can thrive, lead, and transform the food systems. So I'm sure like these stories and this experience of listening, listening to them will inspire all of us. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Nina, for those insightful and energizing remarks. We now welcome Ms. Rehana Rifat Raza, Regional Director for the Asia and Pacific Division at the International Fund for Agriculture Development, IFAD, for her keynote address. Rihanna brings over 20 years of experience as a development economist with deep expertise in social protection, workforce development, and service delivery across Asia and Africa. She currently leads IFAD's Asia Pacific portfolio, driving efforts to support and protect rural communities in the time of evolving challenges. Rihanna, over to you.
Thank you. Hope you can hear me. Thanks very much. And good morning, and thank you for this opportunity to participate in this important launch on a critical conversation on the role of women farmers in transforming agri-food systems. As we celebrate the United Nations International Year of Women Farmers in 2026, this is an important moment to recognize the leadership of rural women and to accelerate action to close the persistent gender gap in agri-food systems. Listening to women farmers speak about their own journey, like Sonpav a moment ago, or others we'll hear later today, is essential because too often we speak about women in agriculture rather than hearing directly from them. Too often, policies and programs are designed without fully listening to the experiences, knowledge, and leadership of women farmers themselves. Across Asia and Pacific, women are central to agri-food farmers, as we saw with some of the statistics earlier. They grow food, manage farms, process products, and sustain rural economies, yet their contribution remains systematically undervalued. At IFAD, our mandate is unique. We invest exclusively in rural people and small-scale producers. This means that the realities of women smallholder farmers, their constraints, but also their leadership and innovation are central to our work. Across IFAD's portfolio, gender equality, women's empowerment, and social inclusion are increasingly embedded in all our investments. Nearly half of ongoing projects are classified as gender transformative, meaning they go beyond participation and actively address structural barriers to gender equality. Across many countries where IFAD works, we see the same reality. Women farmers are not lacking in skills, resilience, or leadership. What they lack is equitable access to resources, services, and opportunities that allow them to fully realize their potential. Closing this gap is therefore not only a matter of fairness, it is fundamental to transforming food systems as they are more productive, resilient, and inclusive. Let me share 3 reflections from IFAD's experience in the region. First, gender inequality in agri-food systems remains deeply structural. Despite women's central role in agriculture, structural inequalities continue to shape rural economies. Women farmers across Asia face persistent constraints in access to land, finance, agricultural services, technologies, and markets. Women are also disproportionately affected by time poverty, as they often carry the heaviest burden of unpaid care work, which limits their ability to participate in training, entrepreneurship, leadership, and just accessing opportunities that are out there. Social norms further restrict participation in decision-making spaces, including in producer organizations, local institutions, and value chains. These constraints reduce productivity, limit incomes, and prevent food systems from reaching their full potential. Second, closing gender gaps is essential for transforming food systems. This is not only a social objective, but it's also an economic and development imperative. Evidence shows that closing gender gaps in agriculture could add nearly $1 trillion to the global economy while reducing food insecurity for millions of people. When women farmers have equal access to land, finance, technology, and training, productivity increases, nutrition improves, rural economies diversify, and communities become more resilient to shocks. For IFAD, gender equality and women's empowerment are therefore not standalone priorities. They're integral to our broader efforts to transform rural economies. Third, real change requires transforming systems, not only increasing participation. IFAD's people-centered mandate delivers results at scale for women farmers. Through our unique role, IFAD works as the first mile to connect rural people to markets, finance, and opportunities, even in the most remote and vulnerable contexts. Our approach focuses on economic empowerment, strengthening women's voice and leadership, and removing the structural barriers that prevent women from benefiting equally from development instruments. But by combining productive investments with stronger agency, leadership, and institutional change, included through targeted initiatives supporting gender transformative approaches to women's land and resource rights, IFAD demonstrates that addressing the root cause of inequality is essential to eradicating rural poverty and delivering sustained impact at scale. Across IFAD-supported programs, we see the impact of this approach. In Cambodia, for example, in the Tonal Sap Poverty Reduction and Smallholder Development Project, which received IFAD's Gender Award, reached more than 450,000 farmers, over half of them were women. Women accessed over 70% of the revolving funds, represented nearly 60% of market group members, and increasingly took leadership roles in community organizations, while climate-resilient technologies helped reduce women's workload and increased productivities and income. In Nepal, for example, in the Rural Enterprise and Remittance Project, placed women at the center of rural enterprise development. Women represented 75% of all beneficiaries. Perhaps most importantly, women now hold 59% of leadership positions in supply chain groups. Another example comes from China, where IFAD partnered with the country's Women Federation and UN Women to strengthen women's leadership in the Hunan province, combining business training, access to finance, and digital tools to help rural women start and grow their own enterprises. These experiences show that when women gain access to resources, skills, and decision-making space, food systems become more productive, more resilient, and more inclusive. This kind of shift from participation to leadership is exactly what gender-responsive food system requires. Looking ahead, building gender-responsive food systems in Asia and the Pacific requires stronger actions in 3 areas. First, policy commitment. Governments must strengthen legal and institutional frameworks that secure women's access to land, finance, and agricultural services. Second, investment. Greater resources must be directed towards programs that put gender equality at the center of agri-food system transformation. Third, institutional change. Development partners, financial institutions, and producer organizations must ensure that women farmers are not only included, but actively shaping decisions. Ultimately, transforming food systems requires recognizing that women farmers are not simply participants in agriculture. They're leaders, innovators, and entrepreneurs whose contributions are essential to feeding communities and sustaining rural economies. The International Year of Women Farmer provides an important opportunity to strengthen global momentum for coordinated action. It offers a platform to align policies, partnerships, and investments so that women farmers have greater access to resources, services, markets, and decision-making spaces across agri-food systems. For IFAD, empowering women farmers is central to our forward-looking agenda. Investing in women farmers is essential to achieving our mandate on poverty reduction, resilience, and inclusive growth, and to ensuring that development efforts reach rural communities from farm to market, even in the most remote contexts. Women farmers are not only feeding their families, they're feeding economies, strengthening communities, and building resilience. Investing in them is not only the right thing to do, it's one of the smartest investments we can make for the future of food systems and for more equitable rural development. So thank you very much, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Rihanna, and thank you for joining us today and sharing your valuable insights. We now move on to our next segment, a panel. She has a story to tell, themes Asia must act on to support women farmers, where we will begin with our second listening session, followed by a panel of experts who will reflect on what they have heard from the women farmer and share their insights. The discussion will focus on key themes, including fair markets and access to finance, gender equity in food systems, youth and next generation women agripreneurs, and how listening can translate into meaningful action through policy, finance, and partnerships. To begin, I'm pleased to invite Ms. Samjana Khatka, a smallholder farmer and cooperative leader from Dolakha, Nepal. Samjana is an emerging young leader and entrepreneur who has transitioned from subsistence farming to commercial pepper cultivation through her engagement with her cooperative. Today, she is building a sustainable livelihood while championing women's economic empowerment in her community. Please note that Samjana will be speaking in Nepali. Live interpretation into English is available. Kindly select your preferred language using the interpretation button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Samjana ji, over to you.
हजुर नमस्कार सबैजनालाई मेरो नाम सम्झना खड्का हो मेरो घर मेलुङ गाउँपालिका वडा नम्बर 2 दोलखा पर्दछ म सिद्धिदेवी महिला समूह र गाई खुरा सामाजिक उद्यमी महिला सहकारीको सदस्य हुँ म अहिले 28 वर्षको भए मेरो परिवारमा आमा बुबा अनि 2 छोरा छन् मेरो श्रीमान रोजगारीको लागि काठमाडौँ बस्नुहुन्छ घरको जिम्मेवारी छोराछोरीको हेरचाह र खेतीपाती यी सबै काम म आफै सम्हाल्दै आएको छु सानैदेखि म परम्परागत खेती गर्दै आएको थिएँ तर त्यो खेती जीवन चलाउन बाहेक खासै प्रगति दिन सकेको थिएन मैले कृषि विषयमा जेटिए अध्ययन गरेँ पढाइसकेपछि मेरो मनमा धेरै प्रशंसाहरू थियो अब के गर्ने कसरी अघि बढ्ने मसँग ज्ञान थियो तर त्यसलाई प्रयोग गर्ने अवसर र दिशा थिएन त्यही अन्यलको बीच करिब 19 महिना अघि म सेतीदेवी महिला समूहमा जोडिन पुगेँ त्यो मेरो जीवनको गोछेढुङ्गा बन्यो समूहमा जोडिएपछि मैले व्यावसायिक खेती गर्ने हिम्मत जुटाएँ मैले अगावरी खोर्सानी खेतीलाई प्राथमिकता दिएँ र साथै विभिन्न तरकारी तथा फलफुल को बिरुवाहरू उत्पादन गर्ने नर्सरी स्थापना गर्ने निर्णय गरे। तर सपना देख्नु सजिलो हुन्छ, त्यसलाई सुरु गर्न धेरै सजिलो हुँदैन। सुरुमा मेरो सबैभन्दा ठुलो समस्या थियो, मसँग लगानी गर्ने क्षमता थिएन। त्यही बेला हेफर परियोजनाले मलाई खुर्सानीको बिउ सहयोग गर्यो, तर मैले सिधै भन्नु पर्यो, मसँग अहिले पैसा छैन, म अहिले दिन सक्दिनँ, तर म मेहनत गर्छु, बिरुवा बेचेर कमाएपछि आवश्यक तिर्छु। त्यो विश्वास र प्रतिबद्धताका साथ मैले सानो नर्सरीबाट आफ्नो यात्रा सुरु गरेँ। सुरुमा डर पनि थियो, बिक्री हुन्छ हुँदैन, सफल हुन्छु हुँदिन, तर मैले हिम्मत हारिनँ। बिस्तारै बिरुवा उत्पादन गर्न थालेँ, स्थानीय बजार बेच्न थालेँ। पहिलो आम्दानी हात पार्दा मलाई लागेको खुसी शब्दमा व्यक्त गर्न सक्दिनँ। मैले कमाएको पैसाबाट सबैभन्दा पहिले आफ्नो ऋण तिरेँ। त्यो मेरो जीवनको एउटा महत्त्वपूर्ण लक्ष्य थियो। त्यसपछि मेरो आत्मविश्वास झनै बढ्दै गयो। म पनि गर्न सक्छु भन्ने विश्वास जाग्यो। हेफर परियोजनाबाट मैले विभिन्न तालिमहरू पाएँ, विशेष गरी अर्ग्यानिक विषादी बनाउने तालिम मेरो लागि धेरै उपयुक्त भयो। त्यसका कारण खेतीमा किरा तथा रोगहरूको समस्या कम भयो, उत्पादन गुणस्तरीय बढ्यो र लगात पनि घट्यो। बिस्तारै मेरो नर्सरी विस्तार हुँदै गयो। मैले अकबारी खुर्सानी मात्र होइन, एभोकाडो, चुनार, अम्बा, कफी लगायतका फलफुलका बिरुवाहरू उत्पादन गर्न थालेँ। साथै घाँस बढार बिरुवाहरू पनि उत्पादन गर्न थालेँ। आज म आफै मात्र किसान होइन, म एउटा सानो उद्यमी बनेको छु। मेरो यो यात्रामा अर्को महत्त्वपूर्ण बाटो हो ज्ञान बाँड्ने। मैले सिकेको कुरा आफूमा सीमित राखिन। म अहिले किसान दिदीबहिनीहरूलाई नर्सरी स्थापना र खुर्सानी खेतीबारे तालिम दिन थालेँ। गाउँहरूका महिलाहरूलाई केही सिकाउन पाउँदा, उनीहरूलाई आत्मनिर्भर बन्न सहयोग गर्न पाउँदा मलाई झनै खुसी लाग्छ। पछि म गाइड र सामाजिक उद्यमी महिला सहकारीमा जोडिएँ। सहकारीसँग जोडिएपछि मेरो व्यवसाय अझ व्यवस्थित र विस्तार भएको छ। अहिले हामी समूहमा मिलेर उत्पादन गर्छौँ र देश विभिन्न ठाउँहरूमा नर्सरीका बिरुवा र खुर्सानी पठाउन थालेका छौँ। आजको दिन सबैभन्दा खर्च कटाएर मैले करिब 10 लाख रुपियाँ बचत गर्न सफल भएको छु। आज म आफै मात्र किसान होइन, म एउटा उद्यमी बनेकी छु। यो रकम मेरो लागि केवल पैसा मात्र होइन, मेरो मेरो मेहनत, सङ्घर्ष र आत्मविश्वासको प्रतिफल हो। आज म आर्थिक रूपमा आत्मनिर्भर हुँदा आफैलाई धेरै बलियो र आत्मविश्वासी महसुस गरिरहेको छु। पहिला साना साना आवश्यकताका लागि पनि अरूमाथि भर पर्नु पर्थ्यो, तर अहिले आफै कमाएर घर चलाउन, छोराछोरीको शिक्षा, स्वास्थ्य र आवश्यकताहरू पुरा गर्न सकिरहेको छु। अब म निर्णय लिन पनि स्वतन्त्र छु र आफ्नो मेहनतको फल देख्दा गर्व लाग्छ। यो यात्राले मेरो जीवनमा ठुलो परिवर्तन ल्याएको छ। अहिले म एउटा सामान्य किसान थिएँ, आफ्नो काममा सीमित। आज तर मेरो समुदायमा मलाई अगुवा किसान भनेर चिनिन्छ। मानिसहरू मलाई आफ्नो खेतमा बोलाउँछन्, सल्लाह लिन्छन् र म उनीहरूलाई सहयोग गर्न पाउँदा गर्व महसुस गर्छु। आज म यस्तो ग्रामीण महिला पनि उत्पादन उद्यम र आत्मनिर्भरता देश अर्थतन्त्र सानो भए पनि योगदान पुर्याएको छु भन्ने सोच्दा धेरै गर्व लाग्छ। महिलाहरूलाई केवल घरभित्र सीमित गरिन्थ्यो तर अहिले हामी पनि उत्पादन गर्ने रोजगारी सिर्जना गर्ने र अर्थतन्त्र चलाउने महत्त्वपूर्ण हिस्सा बन्न सक्छौँ भन्ने महसुस गरेको छ। मलाई लाग्छ यदि गाउँका किसानहरू स्वतन्त्र भए भने देश नै समृद्धि हुन्छ। पहिले त आफै अन्यलमा थिएँ, आज म अरूको लागि मार्गदर्शक बनेको छु। मेरो प्रगति देखेर अहिले मेरो श्रीमान पनि काठमाडौँबाट फर्केर मेरो व्यवसाय साथ दिने योजना बनाउनु भएको छ। मेरो लागि ठुलो उपलब्धि हो किनकि आज म आफ्नो परिवारलाई मात्र होइन आफ्नो श्रीमानलाई पनि गाउँमै अवसर देखाउन सफल भएको छु। आज म जब पछाडि फर्केर हेर्छु लाग्छ हिजो मसँग केही थिएन, केवल सपना थियो। आज मसँग अनुभव छ, आत्मविश्वास छ र सफलताको बाटो छ। आगामी दिनहरूमा म आफ्नो व्यवसायलाई अझ व्यवस्थित, दिगो र विस्तारयोग्य बनाउने लक्ष्य गरेकी छु। अहिलेको नर्सरीलाई आधुनिक प्रविधिसँग जोड्दै व्यवस्थित उत्पादन प्रणाली, गुणस्तर नियन्त्रण र बजारीमुखी उत्पादनमा जोड्न दिने योजना छ। नर्सरीलाई ब्रान्डिङ गर्दै आफ्नो पहिचान बनाउने, अर्को वर्ष प्याकेजिङ र लेबलिङ सहित बजार पठाउने र स्थानीय मात्र होइन जिल्ला बाहिर र देश अन्य क्षेत्रमा समेत बजार विस्तार गर्ने मेरो लक्ष्य छ। साथै उच्च मूल्यका नयाँ फलफुलहरू तथा तरकारीका प्रजातिहरू उत्पादन गर्दै व्यवसायलाई विविधीकरण गर्ने योजना बनाएको छु। आगामी दिनमा प्रोसेसिङमा पनि ध्यान दिने सोचमा छु। जस्तै अकबरे खुर्सानीबाट अचार, सुक्खा खुर्सानी वा अन्य उत्पादनहरू तयार गरेर बजारमा ल्याउने। यसले आम्दानी बढाउनुका साथै बजारको याद्वारा अझ फराकिलो बनाएको छ। त्यसैगरी मेरो ठुला सपना भनेको मेरो नर्सरीलाई एक नमुना सिँचाइ केन्द्रका रूपमा विकास गर्नु हो, जहाँ गाउँघरका महिला, युवा र किसानहरूले व्यावसायिक रूपमा सिक्न सकुन्। म चाहन्छु यहाँ आएर उनीहरूले नर्सरी व्यवस्थापन, व्यावसायिक खेती, अर्ग्यानिक प्रविधि र उद्यम सञ्चालनबारे प्रत्यक्ष सिकुन् र आफ्नो जीवन परिवर्तन गर्न प्रेरण हुन्। म भविष्यमा अझ धेरै महिलाहरूलाई सामूहिक उद्यमको रूपमा यसलाई विस्तार गर्ने सोचमा छु, जसले गाउँमै रोजगारी सिर्जना गर्ने, आय आर्जन बढाउने र मानिसहरूलाई आर्थिक रूपमा सतर्क बनाउने छ। अन्त्यमा म सबै दिदीबहिनीहरूलाई र युवाहरूलाई भन्न चाहन्छु, सपना देख्न नछोड्नुहोस्, सानो सुरुवात गर्न नछोड्नुहोस्। अवसर सधैँ ठुलो हुँदैन तर त्यसलाई ठुलो बनाउन हाम्रो मेहनत र सोच हो। धन्यवाद।
Thank you so much, Samchana, for sharing your lived experience with us. We also noticed the translator was facing a little bit of an internet glitch initially. We apologize to everyone for any inconvenience faced with the translation. Thank you, Samchana ji, for joining us again. We will now invite our first thematic expert to reflect on the theme of fair markets and access to finance for inclusive agri-food systems. It's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Prasoon Kumar Das, Secretary General of the Asia Pacific Rural and Agriculture Credit Association, APRACA. Prasoon is a leading expert in agricultural finance with extensive experience across global institutions including IFAD, FAO, the World Bank, and DFID. He brings deep expertise in banking, rural finance, and development, and currently leads Africa's work across the Asia Pacific region. Dr. Prasoon, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Gurpreet, and good morning to all of you. Uh, this is a very interesting phase we are going through on recognizing. In fact, we recognized it long back, but it's very important that UN has already recognized this. I would like to do a little bit of a presentation on APRACA's areas of intervention where we will be highlighting few interesting areas. For example, can you go to the next, please? The structural barriers which are limiting the women farmers' access. I think Samjana has already told something about that. However, we will be doing it little longer than that. Persistent gaps in access to financial services. All of us know already. Know it has been discussed by IFAD colleague. Then why we include the gender responsive finance, then role of the stakeholders, which are very important, and practical reforms what APRACA has already done in collaboration with international agencies and also our APRACA membership across this region, and some catalytic role. Next, please. Yes. So, I think it's better that that women farmers in Asia Pacific region face a double burden of a productive and reproductive as a lever, compounded by legal and social restrictions. One of them is a land tenure. I think all of us know about the land tenure insecurity. Then we have a time poverty, that women do not get time. Then mobility and safety. Mobility of women in this region is really very hard. And the digital divide, which is very important at this juncture where we are all dependent on the digital tools. Next, please. Then coming to the persistent gaps in accessing the financial services. Financial systems are historically designed for the male asset owners and creating a finance trap for women farmers in Asia Pacific region. The first one is the collateral gap. So we are talking about now we are talking about the alternate collaterals, which will be more applicable for the women farmers. Then lack of tailored insurance product. However, we have an experience in Nepal, in Surkhet district that time, and now it's a part of the province, where we had the women farmers for the goat farmers with the mutual insurance, which are not like classical insurance program, but it's a tailored insurance program which was being led by the women group. Then the financial literacy and ID for the women farmers, special ID for the women farmers. Next, please. Now, coming to the inclusive and gender responsive finance, how we can include the gender into our financial support system. So investing in women, as already our colleague from IFAD already said, that it is not, it is an economic imperative rather than just a social good. So boosting the GDP growth, as already I think all of us know, yield. We have, there are a lot of studies in CG system which has shown that there is a yield increase when the women farmers are involved fully on this on the production. I think Samchana already told us that how she is developing her nursery. And then the community resilience. We have this. We have experienced this community resilience in our goat farming project. Next, please. Now, coming to the key stakeholders in creating equitable value chain. As we understand that the value chain are mostly controlled by the male enterprises. However, we want to have it creating an equitable value chain which require a coordinated action. So first action is from the policymakers, legal reforms. We need some legal reforms, data mandate. So democratizing the data and gender responsive budgeting. This is very important at a grassroots level. We need to have a budget which are gender responsive. Then coming to the financial institutions, alternative credit scoring. See, we do credit scoring which are mostly like like statistics based, but we do not consider the impact of the women farmers into agriculture. So we are working on the alternative credit scoring. We are currently working with one of the organization in India which are supporting Laos and Cambodia at the moment, to some of our microfinance institutions to understand the impact of the women on farming and how to develop a credit scoring for that. Then non-financial services, which are extremely important, especially for the women farmers. And coming to the third one, which is extremely timely intervention required at the agribusiness level by the private sector. Inclusive procurement. When the procurement is done, they prefer in the downstream. Generally, they prefer the inclusive, prefer the men entrepreneurs. Whereas we need to change our mindset and the digital payments. That I want to link with the digital divide. Next, please. Coming to the practical reforms and investment models required. At the moment, we have to scale the women enterprise, we need investment models that de-risk lending and acknowledge the women reality. So one of them is a blended finance vehicles. We do have blended finance vehicle, for example, the first loss mechanism. However, we do not specify whether it will be for the men enterprises or the women enterprises. If it is for the women enterprises, what are the additional features we require for that? Then the value chain finance, the aggregator models, where the women, for example, in Vietnam, as already told, also in Cambodia, the women in India is one of the leading example for the women FPOs. Then the third one is the digital financial services. I am coming every time on the digital financial services. And finally, the equipment leasing. So the equipment leasing, which are small equipment leasing at a village level, where the women groups can lead that equipment leasing system in that particular community. Next, please. Now, some of the examples of approaches of the APRACA members. One of the very interesting part of it is NABARD, India. There are two parts of it. One is the SHG bank linkage and currently the women FPOs. Lack of individual collateral. We have the BRI in Indonesia, where they have agent banking and digital banking. Land Bank in the Philippines, VBSP in Vietnam. So all of them are working to support the women farmer. Next, please. So catalytic role, APRACA act as a regional catalyst, and we have currently developed the regional policy advocacy and framework for the women farmers, and then capacity building of the financial institutions to support the women farming, and scaling up and replicating the best practices and strategic global partnership. Next, please. So coming to the call to action in 2026 and 2027, the landscape of APRACA members are heavily influenced by this international year. So we have the ecosystem as we want the ecosystem to reach to the last mile through the portfolio allocation targets, leadership and institutional representation, economic resilience, indicators with special reference to climate resilience. Next, please. Thank you for listening to my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sain, for sharing your insights and sharing the approaches of Africa on creating inclusive agri-food systems by fair markets and access to finance. We really thank you for joining us today. I now invite our next thematic expert, Ms. Bimbika Sijapati Basnet, Gender and Social Development Specialist at the Asia Development Bank, to share her reflections on gender equity in food systems, closing the gender gap in agricultural resources. Bimbika brings over 2 decades of experience in advancing gender equality across development programs in Asia and the Pacific. At ADB, she leads efforts to mainstream gender across agriculture, food, and natural resources. Bimbika, over to you.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome, and it was such a pleasure to hear from all the speakers, and especially from Sunka and Samjanaji. Thank you so much for sharing your very inspiring journey. I think what I'm going to say has been reiterated by all of the speakers. But, just to add a few points, perhaps, is, as mentioned, of course, women farmers are central to agri-food systems, but many are concentrated in lowest value parts of agriculture value chains. So at ADB, we invest quite a lot on diagnostic to better understand what is going on. And basically, we see two things. Of course, this is a complex problem, but two situations emerge. So the first is that many have limited opportunities, not because of lack of aspiration or drive, but because of these structural constraints that prevent them from moving into higher value chain activities. And then the next challenge is many are doing work that is either low paid or insecure or not recognized as work at all. And these challenges really emerge from a mix of both specific and also sort of shared constraints. And some of the shared constraints that have been, discussed earlier quite a bit is about access to land, finance, technology, services, time, mobility, responsibilities of looking after the family, and also less voice and influence in decision making. But of course, how this plays out differs quite a bit. So we see that some are very ready to sort of move up the value chains, but then lack access to markets, finance, and networks. Whereas others are much more constrained because of either location or social restrictions or age or other dimensions. So the starting point, for us, as has been reiterated so well here, is that, it's very important to understand and listen. Where are women in the value chain? What constraints do they face? What opportunities do they want? And then work from that basis. So at ADB, this approach is really sort of underpins our focus on accelerating progress on gender equality through our investments in agri-food systems. And as many of you might know, ADB is committed to scaling up investments in food systems to $40 billion US dollars by 2030. So let me share a bit about how this looks in practice. Sorry. Can you see my screen? So this is a platform that we just launched during International Women's Day. It's called Women Transforming Food Systems, and and what it's doing is it's really showcasing some of our approaches and some of our results in sort of ensuring that our investments really center on women in our efforts to transform food systems. So you'll see a lot of content here, but what I wanted to draw your attention to is, these stories that really sort of shed light on women who drive the, investments that ADB makes. So I would like to show you one, which is in Nepal. So in Nepal, we went back after a project had ended to meet two women who had been supported. And you can read about this. They're beautiful photos. But basically, one had expanded, Moti Hamal had expanded her honey business and is now preparing to export the business, the honey. Another had sort of Jayakala. So she had, increased her business quite a bit from vegetable production to much more higher value activities, including livestock and also homestay business. So these are, really good examples of how, some of the women have not just increased their production, but also moved to higher value activities and built their enterprise. Another good example is Samoa. So here. So in Samoa, we saw a different story. So here, women agribusinesses were supported to access finance, which was a major barrier for them. And commercial banks were incentivized to actually to lend to women businesses. So you can hear more about their stories in this. Then the next one that I wanted to show is that, but of course, not all are in a position to move up, and supporting them where they are is just as important. So we also have a really nice project here in Lao PDR that is actually supporting the government to expand its conditional cash transfer programs and link it with livelihood support. So for some of the poorest women, in the country, this works like a step-by-step pathway. So it helps them to stabilize before they can take on new opportunities. And among some of the poorest and most climate vulnerable in Pakistan's Sindh coast, and this is another project that you can also read about, the project is really focusing on women's voices and ensuring that all investments are driven by them. And it's led to dedicated budgets for women's prioritized activities, leadership in community governance frameworks, and stewardship agreement with Forest Department on mangroves governance. What I would like to, so this is just a flavor. We will continue to populate this, so please do have a look and share your thoughts. And what I would just like to end with is, in very simple terms, building an inclusive agriculture ecosystem means focusing on both opening pathways for women to move up and improving conditions and security and dignity of the work that they're already doing. And it really starts by listening to them and really focusing on designing and delivering and learning with them. And this is our attempt to showcase how we're approaching this effort at ADB, and I look forward to learning from everyone else in this important panel. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bimbika, for your valuable insights, and thank you for sharing the stories of smallholder farmers thriving in Nepal and other countries with the support of ADB. We really appreciate your participation. I now invite Ms. Tida Kiev, founder and CEO at Solar Green Energy Cambodia, to share her reflections on youth and next generation women agripreneurs. Ms. Tida brings over 10 years of experience in clean energy sector, specializing in solar solutions. Her company is a pioneer in Cambodia, delivering large-scale solar water pumps for agricultural irrigation, along with energy solutions across multiple sectors. Tida, over to you.
Yes, thank you so much. And Chumriep Suwa, hello everyone. My name is Tida, that I am the founder and also the CEO of the Solar Green Energy Cambodia. And as you mentioned, my company, we are is a energy sector, but we are strong focus with the solar power system, the renewable energy. And our main purpose, we want to support the agriculture in Cambodia. So I'm the private sector, but I want to show you as well. So what is my activity that we do relate with the agriculture in Cambodia. Yeah. So my company, we install the solar power system or station that the system or station, it irrigate the water to the farmer for their rice or for their vegetable. So as you know about right now, the petrol or the diesel, it really high, expensive because of the war. Yes, so we all know about this. So that's why the renewable energy, the solar power system, it really good to help to the farmer to reduce the cost, to reduce their reduce their cost and also the yield increase, and also they have a sufficient water to do for their farming. And this is what my activity to do. So right now, yeah, I'm really glad to join in this event. Especially, I also like the title. I want a story to tell. Yes, I have a story to tell you that investing in the young women is really good, and we should not lag behind them. So it means that we are intersection clean energy and agriculture is the one of the smartest way for the future boost food system. Energy and agriculture are deeply linked at the young women, and also can accelerate the shift to more sustainable, resilient model if giving the right support to the woman or young entrepreneur. So the clean energy sector or agri-food sector are growing rapidly in nowadays, but it faces to still shortage, including more women expand the talent pool. It means that bringing the new perspective, innovation, and the problem solving approach. So the activity in my company, we always get the internship from the other university around in Cambodia. Especially, we are motivated to the women, the student come to intern in my company, especially in the engineer sector. So we always motivate them to come to intern in my company every year. And also, if we talk about my company, we have around 70% of women are in the management role. So this is like the role important that they have many skills, but also include with the engineer as well. So I just mentioned to you that we work a lot with the community. So we always seeking to find the women or young to join in the activity in their community. And I noted that when the women or young work in the community, they are flexible to solve the problem, and also they are really good fluent to their village or community for achieve their goals. And as you know, the women and also the elder people and also the children, they are participately vulnerable to the importance of the climate change. So we cannot leave them behind, and not only strong focus to the men. So the women are necessary to join as well with the technology sector. And I believe that if the women or the young youth, they participate, it will be bring a good solution and the positive change in their community. So the clean energy or agriculture are really converging fast. If youth women exclude that transition, it will be slower, less equitable, and less effective. If they empower, they will become key driver of the sustainable agriculture, energy access, and the food security all at once. So I also want to tell you about what is the challenge in my company as well. So as I mentioned, my company, we work a lot in with the community. We also motivate to the young women and also the women become a leader in the community and work to spread out about what is the renewable energy and also what is the benefit of using the renewable energy. But my company also have a challenge as well. I can show one example. If they have a two person that one is man and woman when are in the same of the engineer skill. So when they go to talk with the client and talk with the other stakeholder, they always want to listen to the man. It's not the woman. So the woman in Cambodia, it means that they always thinking that technology is not for the women in Cambodia, just for the men. And myself as well. So when I am in 2098, that I have finished my college and come into the university. And during that time, I never think that to become an engineer because I think that engineer is for the man, it's not for the woman. So I choose the career accounting. But because I'm joined in this work, because my husband is engineer, so that's why I'm work together with him. But I'm strong, really strong motivated that technology it can solve a lot of things, and also we cannot leave behind if only the men do this work. How about the women? So where they are? So we should go together, and we should go together and to for the protect of our climate change and to do climate resilient together. And also the culture norm is the one of the challenge as well, and also access to the finance because my company we want to spread out our activity because I saw that when we are do the solar pumping station, it's not only we get the profit, but it's also good to the environment and also reduce the cost of the farmer and also to create job in the community. And also the farmer or the community, they not face any problem about the solar technology. So I think that I want to spread out of this technology around in Cambodia for the right and for the vegetable. But we still have a challenge on the finance because to do the solar station, it's cost a lot of money. So we need to thinking about the investment as well. So that's why during nowadays, I have a chance to work with some NGO and work with the CSO that they have to company because they see that a good impact to the community. So that's why they just provide some grant and provide some technical support. And also we want the government to thinking about my activity and also to do like the tax exemption yes, this is the kind of the motivate, but hope that we can it can work. So if I invest in that community or invest in agri-food, so I hope that I can get the profit, and I also thinking that to provide with the good benefit and good impact, good environment to the community, and also provide a job to motivate to the young generator, especially the young women. They can see the real case of the solar technology working, and also motivate them to work in this sector as well. Yeah, that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Tita, for your insights and really sort of taking us through your lived experience and how you have paved your way in the field of technology and motivating other young women, in being part of the technological, pathways that you're creating in agriculture in Cambodia. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Yeah,
Hope
thank
to
you.
have
Thank
you
you.
with us at the event. I now invite Ms. Reena Soni, Executive Director of Passing Gifts Private Limited, a wholly owned subsidiary of Heifer International, to synthesize the discussion and reflect on how listening can translate into meaningful action through policy, finance, and partnerships. Reena is a seasoned leader with over 28 years of experience across financial services and social development, currently leading efforts to strengthen market access and value chains for smallholder farmers and women led enterprises in India. Reena, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Gurpreet. And first of all, a big thank to all the panelists, Ms. Sanjana, Dr. Prasoon Kumar Das, Ms. Bimbika, and Ms. Thida Cave. Like what you shared was truly powerful. And what we have heard was not just powerful, but not simply because it was moving, like the manner in which Samjana shared her story of how she was able to transition from a subsistence farmer uh, to a farmer who is now doing commercial pepper cultivation, and also how she was able to, with her business, also able to now get her husband to come back from Kathmandu. So I think what has come up is not only just moving, but it is also instructive. It is also giving us, what is it that we need. So this story that each one of the farmers are sharing, the panelists are sharing in terms of their work, is reminding us that women farmers do not need us to define realities for them. That is not what is needed. What they need us to listen carefully enough so that we are able to change the system around them. Like Tida shared, like when two engineers go, one is a woman, the other is a male, people look at the male person. So how do we really bring about a change in these social norms? What do we bring together? This is what we are talking about. So like in the first panel, Dr. Prasoon made one thing very clear, when we were talking about that that women across Asia, his presentation, the APRA presentation, said that women across Asia, they continue to face land insecurity, time poverty, mobility constraint, and digital divide, while financial systems also remain built for male asset owners and creating this financial trap. So, but also what was really encouraging to note was how the models that Mr. Prasoon Das presented, where he talked about innovative finance model, the aggregate model, the other, mutual insurance models that they were talking about. It is showing us a pathway that when we go listen, put the smallholder women farmers at the center, what do we do? So at Heifer, one lesson that stands out consistently for us, and that has shaped our entire programming, the 6 lakh plus, 600,000 farmers that we work, and 90% plus of them are smallholder women farmers. It stands out that when these women are organized and supported with the right skills and services, and they are connected to real economies, opportunities that they and opportunities, they do not just participate more, but they lead differently, they invest differently, and they strengthen the system around them. What Samjana shared, that today I want to convert my nursery into a model learning center so that others can understand. And what was really important, and that is what Heifer's philosophy, like she started earning 100,000 Nepali rupees. And what was that difference? We always feel at Heifer that the difference is a difference of L. The person who earns is the person is a difference of L. The person who learns is a person who earns. And our entire programming is focused around that how do we invest so that these smallholder women farmers are just providing them a platform. And the second panelist talked about Ms. Bimbika Sejapati really talked about that platform, and like I mentioned, we need to provide that platform. So this was what was a key takeaway, that the platform which is being created, women transforming food systems, the stories that she shared about the honey business, how the farmer has now started exporting it, the investment in livestock business. And I always say that livestock is the blue chip stock in which we all need to invest. And Miss Sajapati talked about it, that how access to finance, commercial banks are in, that the programs that they did where they incentivized commercial banks to lend to women farmers. So this is how they are making the system work, so that it's not one-off training program, but how do we unlock the commercial capital where commercial banks are incentivized to lend to small women farmers. And from our perspective, this is the most important thing, because we invest at Heifer in terms of building the social capital, because we have an innate belief that everybody has limitless potential. How do we show them and give them that platform, give them that right, through various value-based holistic community development model, the 12 cornerstone training programs that we have, to see this, mirror this in their life. And once you do that, they are unstoppable. And we see that how they are participating in the the government processes, and also now rising up to have leadership position, political leadership positions as well. So this is what I feel is very important that Miss Bimbika Sajapati brought about, and this is what Heifer is also focusing on. And the fourth panel was equally very, very important, where we talked about the future of the food, and this is at the hand of the youth. So not only talking about today, but talking about the future as well. And that's what Miss Tida talked about, that how she's working at intersection of clean energy and future market. So at Heifer, I would just like to summarize at Heifer, what we believe, that the right response to the story is not just admiration, it is action. Action that expands access to resources, action that creates financial markets, action that creates finance more accessible and more trusting, and action that recognizes women farmers not as beneficiaries at the margin, but at the center as producers, as enterprises, and leaders at the heart of transformation. So I'll just end here.
Thank you, Reena, for your insights and synthesizing the discussion, the panel discussion, so beautifully, and also highlighting why listening is so important for meaningful action through policy, finance, and partnerships. Thank you again for joining us. And now we come to a very special segment of today's event. We have spent the last hour listening to stories from the field, to lived experiences of powerful reflections from our technical experts. And now we are bringing in a voice that has a power to take these stories far beyond this room to millions across the world. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome Ms. Prajakta Kohli. Prajakta is a creator, actor, and bestseller author with a community of over 18 million people. From leading global shows like Mismatch to being named in Time 100 Creator 2025, she has consistently used her platform for not just to entertain, but to inform, influence, and inspire. Today, she joins us not just as a global voice, but as someone who's choosing to listen. In this fireside chat, we'll explore a simple yet powerful question at the heart of our campaign. Are we really listening to women who feed us? Through this conversation, we'll reflect on visibility, voice, and the urgent need to reconnect with people behind our food systems. So let's dive into this conversation. Prajakta, a very warm welcome and thank you for being part of this global movement.
Hello, hi, Gurpreet. Good morning. Thank you so much for making me a part of this. Honestly, it is 100% my pleasure.
Thank you so much again. My first question to you is, when you hear the term women farmer, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
Honestly, it's the most absurd thing to listen to, because in my head, I'm like, I wouldn't look at a male farmer and call him a male farmer or call him a man farmer. So just looking at that concept, and I understand that it's always been a certain conditioning that we've grown up with. For me, a lot of my life growing up, calling someone a woman doctor or calling her a woman lawyer, a woman farmer felt like empowerment till you actually kind of sat down, thought about it, and thought, you know what? it really isn't. It's kind of counterproductive with the whole idea of equality. So when I think about women farmers, the first thought is this. The second thought is always that why aren't we speaking enough about this? Why are they always spoken for? Why are they always spoken about but never listened to? So yeah.
Great. And that's what, we are also trying to change through this campaign is, rather than asking a question about who is a farmer, to changing that to why aren't we listening to her? So
Yeah.
thank you for those insights. You are our campaign ambassador. Thank you for that again, and supporting us in amplifying the voices of women smallholder farmers across Asia. What felt personal about She Has a Story to Tell Are You Listening campaign for you, and why did it resonate?
Honestly, for me, anything socially relevant. I've been making content for over 11 years now. In 2015, I kind of put myself out there, started with comedy, and then slowly and steadily went into body positivity, girls' education, equality. And when you study the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, like for me, number 5 is gender equality has always been the one that I've kind of kept going back to. Climate action came in the whole process. But when you work on goal number 5, you realize that somehow goal number 5 ties everything in together. Every other SDG that you're working with kind of gets tuned in together. I've had the pleasure of having conversations with people who are doing considerable work on ground. And the one biggest lesson I've learned as someone who's kind of almost overshared on the internet for over a decade now is that nothing sells or nothing translates like storytelling. I don't think the younger generation today who's spending almost all their free or their non-free time on the internet scrolling has the attention span to read stats, to read charts, to see graphs, to see maps. The minute conversation like that happens, it goes in a space of ki, oh, it doesn't look like I'm going to be of any help here because there doesn't seem to be a call to action that's usable for me. But the minute it comes packaged as a story, the minute it comes with a cold open saying, did you know that this farmer here works so many hours in a day and is alone responsible for these many kilos of rice that are bought and sold? You immediately have their attention. So I think what resonated with me the most was that it so beautifully kind of um, merges, but at the same time also runs parallelly with doing work that is important, where as someone who eats, as someone who sits at home, makes a plate and eats, I need to know where the food came from. But if you tell it to me in this form of pie diagrams and charts, I'm not going to listen. So storytelling works beautifully. And I think that merger is where the most efficiency in that conversation lies.
Thank you, Prajakta, for highlighting the power of storytelling. And we truly believe, to inspire, inform, and educate people, there's nothing better than storytelling.
Yeah.
My next question to you is, this campaign asks for a simple but a very uncomfortable question. Are we really listening? Why do you think listening to women farmer is so important? And what do we miss if we don't listen?
When you really zoom out of this, listening is directly proportionate to how much respect someone who's putting their life into something as basic as feeding you gets. The fact that you do not stop to turn back and pay attention to what they have to say, or pay attention to what their experiences are, or pay attention to understanding where their journey takes them going forward is important, because we cannot sit in our very comfortable houses telling ourselves that it doesn't matter. If any farmer who is working on the food that comes to you is affected, you will be affected in one way or the other. So it is just stupid to think that their stories are not personal to us, or their stories do not matter our lives. If there is a bunch of women who are working on farms but do not have the right sanitation, do not have the right education to work around things that by now should be given to them, that is going to affect you no matter what part of the country you're sitting in. So I think it's important to listen to them, because nobody should tell their story other than them. You can work in amplifying it. You and I can come together and put our resources together to make sure that this reaches as many people and has that domino effect in getting the conversation through, because that's what we are good at. But we're never going to be as good as them in telling what they live every day. So it's important to listen to them, because that's the only way you'll really know how to respect them and continue working in a way that ensures the safety of the farmers, but also of you and your children and generations coming forward. You'll be very surprised. I mean, you won't be because you work in it, but everyone who's joining this or learning about this very newly will be surprised how much this affects our life on an everyday basis.
Absolutely. Prajakta, as someone from the media space, you understand the power of visibility.
Yeah.
Can you tell us when a women farmer are truly seen and heard on their own terms, shaping their own destinies as leaders rather than just viewed as passive participants? What changes?
You know, when we think of farmers, also, I mean, obviously, it's silly to sit and think that, oh, my notebook never showed a female farmer, when I was in first standard. My textbook never showed me, or my drawing books never had it. It's silly to, I'm 32 now. It's silly for me to sit and complain about that. What is not silly or what is ignorant on my part is that today my food comes packaged. My food comes in a box, it comes packaged with plastic, it comes in a theli, it comes in a way that almost makes me forget that there was any kind of human interaction this food has had. It almost looks so automated and mechanical that I almost forget. Now that is not okay. Now, why storytelling is important is because we need to simplify these concepts. We get so busy, and through media especially, because that is where, at this point, a lot of the people, a lot of the generation that's actually going to make a difference right now, or 5 or 10 years down the line, is paying their attention at. So, when you speak about simplified storytelling or actually breaking these concepts down to get younger people to understand that next time you sit down with a packet of food or you sit down with your plate of food, give it a moment to think where it came from. It didn't grow out of a machine. It wasn't dropped on your plate from a machine. It came from the hard work and the sweat and many, many long hours, lots of struggles, lots of love and labor of hands, majority of which could be of women's. So I think simplifying something like that can become easier when it comes through a platform where storytelling already is king or queen.
Absolutely. My next question was about, what are the gaps that you think, that's making this disconnect between people and the farmer? You have partly answered it, but are there any additional thoughts that you would like to share with how can we start bridging it? You have said a few things, but if there's anything else that you'd like to add to that.
I think just adding to that, I would say that putting faces to these names. Like right now, you think about farmer, you see one drawing you have seen in school, or you think about one typical thing that has been taught to you. I think putting faces to these names. I remember when I was working with the UNDP, and we were working with the fishermen in the mangroves of on the western coast from Maharashtra to Goa. There's this beautiful village called Vengurla. So on the coasts of that, now I come from the fisherman community myself. But even for someone like me who's grown up in this community, going to Vengurla and meeting these people and actually talking to them, sitting down and realizing, oh, like this is exactly how I would talk to someone that I knew, simplified a lot of it in my mind, where I was like, in our heads we think of like, oh, like the women fishermen, oh, the ladies of the fisher, but for them it's life. And when you look at it that simplified, it's easier for you also to believe it. That changed everything. So in my head, when you put a face to the concept, it simplifies a lot of things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree with you, Prajakta. My final question to you is you have millions of people listening to you every single day. What message would you like to share with your followers about the people who grow our food, most of whom are actually women?
Yeah. I think the only message would be, and I feel very privileged that I have the audience that I have, because they're actually a huge community that actually wants to listen. So I will talk about the pledge that we are running right now. I have the notes here, so I'll say the right things and I don't mess it up. But also before that, I feel like we don't have, especially at a time when we choose where our food comes from. At my age, and now younger people are working a lot earlier, they're earning a lot earlier. I feel like it starts at a decision you make for yourself. When you get to choose where you get your food from, when you get to choose how is your food treated, and when you sit down and really dial back to understanding, you'll realize that I don't think we have the privilege of not listening to them. I don't think we sit in a position where it doesn't matter what they are saying. I think it matters directly to us. So even if you don't want to do it for the betterment of the world and to make the society a better place, do it for yourself. I don't think you have the option of not knowing the stories that they have to tell. And about the pledge, I'm going to open it up quickly so I don't mess it up. So obviously, for everyone who's watching us right now, if this resonates with you, you can sign the pledge. I'm sure on my stories or somewhere after this, there is a link that I will be sharing where you can actually go and sign up and sign the pledge to actually stand by them and listen to what they have to say, and not just listen, also talk about them. It's important that it's not just a click that happens. And I'm not saying you're supposed to go out and do bhashans and talk to everybody in the world and have these support groups. I'm saying start in your peers, start in your families, make sure your parents know about it, make sure your friends know about it, make this a conversation that isn't a statement, or it's not sensationalizing women farmers, it's normalizing them. So make sure it's an everyday conversation in your circles, and that's how it'll multiply.
Thank you, Project. Actually, the pledge link, the QR code is just at the background,
There it's
your
you.
background, so people can just scan it quickly and
Yeah,
take a pledge.
you can scan
Thank,
it.
thank you for that powerful call to action, and that's this very, very insightful discussion today, Project, and your time. We'd like, your words today has really helped us carry these stories far behind this room, and for sure, in the course of this campaign, we'll do multiple other things together so that we make sure that their stories go far behind, far beyond. Thank
Very,
you
very
so much for
happy to be
joining.
associated with this, and thank you so much for making me a part of it.
Thank you, Project. We are now going to be going on to our next section, which is the Q&A section. And if you have not yet written your questions in the Q&A section, the time is now. I have the first question for Miss Bimbika Sijapati Basnet. Bimbika, the audience have asked you a question about what are the systemic barriers that policies still fail to address?
I mean, there are quite a lot. Of course, and these are long-standing issues. One is on land, of course. That's really, some of the basic conditions. The other is on decent work, ensuring that the work that women do are recognized. The other is, access to technology. And that means, not just any technology, but technology that actually, works for women, and that, that isn't designed for somebody else and that they have to develop. And that actually requires a lot of investments in R&D, for instance. And, we've talked a lot about capital, but, now I think the discussion is much more about bundled services. So not just credit, but, responsible credit, consumer protection, linking with sort of social protection to insurance to, these bundled services. So basically, there's long-standing issues. And of course, and I think that most countries, at least in the Asia Pacific where we work at ADB, face these issues to varying extents. And of course, there is, for many policymakers, if you're at a sectoral level, then it's very difficult to address issues that are seen as cross-sectoral. So, for instance, for irrigation, let's say, gaining access to water is very important, but then, the irrigation water, it goes across boundaries. And then, so then, then how do you actually bring everybody to the table and ensure that there is a common vision, a common understanding, and that, women themselves identify what are the solutions, and we actually use that as a basis to then have a discussion. I think that viewpoint is also an issue that, needs to be addressed, and, initiatives like yours is a really good effort at doing precisely that. So a long-winded question, but many binding constraints. The important point is to sort of identify them and also ways of solving them with women themselves and not just for them. Thanks.
Thank you, Vindika. Our next question is for Dr. Prasoon Kumar Das, but I don't see him here. I think he's left. He had to leave for another event. But if someone else from our speakers would like to answer this question, why do so many financing solutions fail to translate into real access on the ground? If there's any other speaker who'd like to take up this question.
So, Brother Gurpreet, I can take it and make it very brief. There's been a lot of effort, and we already heard that when we talk about smallholder farmers, they are distant, they are small. One of the biggest constraints that we've seen is I'm talking about commercial finances. It comes with an ask of collateral. And we already saw that women mostly don't own assets. So that's been one of the constraints. And there has been a lot of agencies that's been working with commercial financing sector to figure out how to ease financing solutions. But one other aspect that we have seen is there's a distance between these commercial financial institutions and smaller farmers. So they are small, their ticket size that they require are small, and the cost of doing business with them is going to be huge for the commercial financial sector. So there needs to be a bridge, a gap in between. So that's what organizations like us can do. That's what farmers organization can do. So there has been instances where it has worked, but largely, even like I can talk about an experience in Nepal. Nepal government has a subsidy for women farmers, but like the demand is there. There's a solution that the government brought with the subsidy, but if you look at the impact report, there was very less farmers actually assessed that very less of smaller farmers. If you look at the ticket sizes, it was bigger agriculture initiative that got the support. I'm not saying that they shouldn't, but it was targeted to smaller farmers, but it didn't reach because there's a distance between the smaller farmers, their need, and the financial commercial capital. So there's an intentional work that needs to be done there in bridging, de-risking, and then the commercial financial solutions always see smaller farmers as a risk. Though the data doesn't show that investing on them has been risky, they even see investment in agriculture as a risk. So there has to be more conversation around them. There has to be de-risking mechanism. There has to be bridge, and there has to be intentional effort and understanding all these barriers. So, there has been some successful efforts, but there's quite a lot to be done yet in investing in this food system, and then that will reach to the smallholder farmers. I'll stop here.
Thank you, Nina. We have time for one more question, and that question is for Ms. Tida Keefe. I see her there. Tida, the question is, how can innovation and clean energy solutions unlock opportunities for young women in agriculture? And the second piece of the question is, what role do enterprises like yours play in shaping the future of agri-entrepreneurship?
Sorry again, please. The first question.
I can repeat that.
Yes.
How can innovation and clean energy solutions unlock opportunities for young women in agriculture?
Yes, young women
And the
for
second
agriculture.
part, the second part is what is the role of enterprises like you, Soji, that play in shaping the future of agri-entrepreneurship?
The role shaping to the
Future of agri-entrepreneurship, yes.
Future, yeah, agree partnership. Okay. Yes, thank you so much for the question. I think for me, agriculture, agri-food is really important, and also in Cambodia, we want to showcase the real example, real practice to the farmer or to the woman. So if they can see the real example, it means that only innovate about the idea or motivate them to understand and to see what is the real practice. So I think that this is not just only about the business do alone, but also the government is also should be involved in this activity as well to motivate to the company. So what is the benefit if the company they want to do on that? Because as you know about the business, if it's not if they don't have the profit, it's hard for them to involve in the activity, especially with the social enterprise. So if they have a business, and also they will be thinking about what the activity that could be go to communicate with the agriculture business, and also are involved with the community at the rural. So and also we want to be we should have the role model for them to see to motivate them to see them what is the success of the woman entrepreneur, and also not just only the success story but also about the challenge that she facing for the sector as well. And for me the role for to do with this agriculture is according to the opportunity and also the source, the resource that we have. So because of my company, we are not only me but the whole of the company, our team, our leader, we are have the same heart, the same purpose, that we willing to solve the problem about the renewable energy, and also about how to our solution to solve the problem for the agriculture sector at the rural or at the community. So our activity, we are shaped to find the way to solve the problem at the community. So this is I think that for the government or for the CSO or for the organization, they could to find the way or the solution together for the company and also for the community, that we can work together. Yeah, I'm not really sure that I can answer your question or not.
Thank you, Tida. I think you did answer. I think we don't have more time to take questions, but to the audiences, the questions that are unanswered, we have taken a note of it, and we are going to be sending those to the speakers if it's directed to a specific speaker, and get back to you with the responses. Thank you so much. As we come to the close of today's event, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to everyone present here today. A special thank you to our keynote speaker, our thematic experts, and inspiring women farmers who have so generously shared their lived experiences with us today. Your voices, insights have truly grounded this conversation in purpose and possibility. And of course, a very special thank you to Prajakta Kohli for joining us and leading her voice to this movement. Your words today will help carry these stories far beyond this room. To our audience, thank you for joining us, for listening, and for being part of this important conversation. But as we have heard today, listening is the only beginning. We invite each one of you to be part of the She Has a Story to Tell, Are You Listening movement. Take a pledge, amplify women farmer voices, and stand with women farmers as leaders of our agri-food systems. Do follow Heifer International Asia on social media and continue to engage with us as we take this campaign forward. Thank you once again and have a wonderful day ahead. Bye-bye, everyone.